Revealed, 10 spine-chilling secrets from the haunted depths of the ocean's cursed abyss. The ocean whispered, and the sound was terrifying. It coiled around the rocks like a serpent, hiding secrets that tugged at the minds of the unwary. In Haven Cove, the town thrived on tales of the cursed abyss, a legendary cavern where the deep housed wonders that could silence the bravest of souls. Children vanished, drawn into its depths, swallowed by dreams, or perhaps, nightmares. Lisa, a single mother, felt the chill in every fiber of her being as she raised her son Jake. A bright 12-year-old, he roamed the shore, enchanted by the crashing waves and the sea's hidden stories, unaware of the danger waiting just beyond the tide pool's point. One night, the fog rolled in thick like a shroud, wrapping around the shoreline. Lisa rushed home from her shift, her heart racing with the thoughts of Jake. Just moments earlier, she had told him to stay close, but curiosity lured him away. Fear prickled at her skin as she reached their cramped cottage. "Jake," she called out. Silence. Only the distant crashing of waves answered her. Panic rising, she dashed toward the shore. Her mind raced, remembering the stories she heard whispered among the townsfolk, tales of children who wandered too close and got lost to the abyss. When she reached the rocks, her stomach knotted. The tide was low, revealing dark pools teeming with life, but no sign of her son. "Jake!" She screamed his name, but only the wind answered, cold and mocking. The local authorities, dismissive and jaded, shrugged off her frantic pleas. "He probably found a hiding spot," one official said, rolling his eyes. "He'll turn up." They didn't understand. It wasn't just the water, it was what lay beneath, the legends, the curses lurking within the blue. Lisa's breath hitched, heartbeat thunderous in her ears. As night fell, dread settled deep like sediment in her soul. Desperate for answers, Lisa turned to the town's folklore. She dove into books and old wives' tales, uncovering layers of a community wrapped in obsession. The cursed abyss wasn't just a story, it breathed through the town's very fabric. Names of those who vanished echoed in her mind, and she shivered as she read the words. The abyss lures with promises of happiness, but it only takes. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed. As shadows lengthened and hope dimmed, Lisa began to feel the prying eyes of her neighbors, as if they knew something she didn't. The friendly faces at the market suddenly wore masks. What did they discuss when she turned her back? Laughter twisted in her mind, taunting her. Each encounter left her on edge, the gentle waves now a cacophony of dread. One evening, Lisa followed the whispers to the shore, where dark figures gathered. They were wrapped in secrecy, invoking a rite that sent shivers down her spine. To appease the abyss, they murmured in a chilling chant, "We must give what it desires." Lisa's heart raced. Fear battled with an undeniable pull towards the sea. And then she heard his voice, faint and echoing like a whisper from the past. "Mom!" It pierced through the fog, wrapping itself around her soul. Hope twisted into a knot of dread. She turned toward the depths, heart pounding, unable to shake the feeling that Jake was close, or perhaps something far more sinister lingered beneath the waves. Lisa stood motionless, the sound of her son's voice echoing through the murky air. Panic forced her heart to race, arms trembling at her sides. "Jake!" She cried again, but the whisper of the sea drowned her out, pulling her closer to the treacherous rocks. The whispers of the gathering figures twisted like smoke around her, an incantation weaving a spell of dread. The words slithered into her mind, insinuating themselves like a parasite. The abyss had wanted something. Her instinct screamed to turn away, yet curiosity clawed at her. It was the same curiosity that had driven Jake from the safety of her side. She edged toward the edge of the tide pools, scanning every crevice for a glimpse of him. The shadows danced, morphing into phantom shapes that made her stomach churn. "Mom!" The plea broke the spell, clearer this time, mixed with a sense of urgency. Was he trapped? Taking a deep breath, Lisa braced herself against the chill creeping through her skin. The tide pools glistened under the pale moonlight, reflecting a beauty that was anything but innocent. Shadows leaped across the surface, creating faces that broke into grinning mockeries. Jake! Desperation pushed her into the murky water, the cold biting into her skin. She felt as though the ocean itself were alive, pulling her deeper into its treacherous grasp. She stumbled over slick rocks, barely able to keep her footing. The sea's voice whispered sweet nothings, promises of safety, of answers, of Jake. But the abyss was waiting, ever watchful. Each step felt deliberate, the air growing thicker, almost hostile. She glimpsed figures in the distance, the townsfolk, their backs turned. They stood as sentinels, lost in their communication with the unknown, unaware of the turmoil that gripped Lisa. She couldn't linger, she had to push through. Suddenly, the wind shifted, swirling angrily around her. Shadows lurked just beyond her field of vision, dark and longing, as if waiting for her to edge too close. Faceless whispers rose from beneath the surface, enticing and filled with promises. "Join us, stay forever, shut up!" she shouted, the words echoing into the night. Water splattered against her face, but she had to remain focused. She stepped closer to the water, heart hammering in her chest, desperate for any sign of Jake. There! A glimpse of something pale, and then it disappeared. Jake! Lay it all bare, the ghostly call came, sweet and chilling. It enveloped Lisa, and confusion seeped into her mind. Was it Jake calling for her? Or the abyss? Something in her gut told her to flee, but she was paralyzed, drawn toward the depths that promised to fulfill her quest. The ground beneath her shifted suddenly, rocks sliding dangerously as the tide surged. "Mom!" Another cry, this time closer, vibrating through her very bones. She plunged further, fingers grazing the water's surface, seeking any tether to the voice that willed her closer to destruction. As she reached for the warmth, the pools exploded with frothy waves, laughter swirling around her, a resonance of children's joy laced with a sinister undertone. Shadows emerged from the depths, their eyes shining with a hunger that eclipsed her hope. The figures on the shore turned slowly now, their expressions unreadable but filled with a knowing darkness. "Jake!" she screamed, despair clawing at her throat. The tide twisted as a shape rose just out of reach, hand extended, glistening under the moonlight. Yet another voice, striking like a dagger through the evening air, whispered a warning that sent ice through her veins. Then, silence. Lisa stood transfixed, breath caught in her throat. There, through the mist, a silhouette stepped closer from the water, but before she could make sense of the unfolding horror, the shadow shifted. The abyss claimed not only a son but a mother too. And that was when Lisa felt it, the chilling realization that perhaps she was too late. Who or what had she let into their lives? As the tide receded, a new sound emerged, sinister and soft, echoing from the depths below. "Come play with us." The abyss stirred. And she knew it wasn't finished yet. The water shifted violently around Lisa's legs, pulling her deeper into its grip. She couldn't breathe. Panic clawed at her throat, each heartbeat louder than the last, as if the ocean itself was counting down to something terrifying. "Jake!" The words slipped from her lips, raw and desperate. The voices of the figures on the shore receded into the backdrop, consumed by the roar of the waves. It was just her and the abyss now. "Mom! Help!" His voice flickered like a dying candle, wavering in the darkness. She was close. She had to be tugged by a force she could neither understand nor resist. Lisa leaned farther into the tide pool. The water's frigid touch seeped through her clothes, a chilling reminder of how far she was from safety. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to run from whatever awaited beyond the veil of shadows. But hope urged her forward. "Jake!" She waded deeper, hands raw against the jagged rocks that lined the pool. The moonlight painted the surface in silver, but the glow felt ominous, revealing shapes beneath that seemed to lurk and writhe just out of sight. "Look!" A voice that was not Jake's rang out, dripping with malice, almost playful. It came from a figure emerging from the water, a little girl with eyes too wide and a grin that didn't quite reach them. "He's down here." Lisa faltered. The girl's face twisted into features resembling Jake, contorted yet eerily familiar. Lisa shook her head in denial. The abyss was playing tricks, weaving illusions like threads in a tapestry of despair. "Don't listen to her," She screamed, but doubt invaded her mind. Had her own child become ensnared in this sinister web? Jake! A hand shot up from the depths, pale and trembling, grasping at the air. The mere sight sent a jolt of pain through Lisa's soul. Mom, please. He was real, he had to be. Before she could think, Lisa lunged, reaching for the hand that fought against the dark waters. The moment she grasped it, the abyss roared with fury. The water surged violently, yanking her into its hold. Her heart raced, panic twisting her insides. She was drowning in the chaos of the unknown. Join us, stay forever. The whispers circled her like vultures, wrapping around her heart, squeezing tighter as she struggled to find her breath. The townspeople had turned towards the spectacle, their soulless eyes locked on Lisa, expressions blank and unmoving. Were they alive or just shadows caught in the abyss's snare? Lisa felt their gaze bore into her, a collective judgment hovering heavy in the air. Mom! Desperation burned within Lisa as the waves threatened to consume her whole. She pressed her eyes shut, fighting against the deep voices tugging her focus away. The warmth from Jake's hand slipped away, and a weeping cold filled the void. Let him go. A surge of resolve crashed over her, spurred by pure adrenaline. She pulled back, ripping herself from the water's grip. Struggling, she climbed back on the shore, her eyes still traced on the silhouette trying to emerge from the depths. As she gasped for air, she could feel the relentless malevolence of the abyss, feeding off her fear, taunting her with sweet lies of safety. And then, silence fell again, but not a comforting silence, a devouring, hollow silence that throbbed with unanswered questions. What do you want from us? Lisa shouted, her voice trembling but defiant. The wind howled, rustling through the townsfolk, and they responded in unison, their voices forming a single chilling statement that resonated in the night air. What you cannot escape. Chills ran down her spine. The abyss was watching, anticipating, hungry for more than just her son. It was gorging itself on her very soul. Somewhere below, she could sense movement. Shadows danced beneath the tide, spinning into a vortex of lost souls claiming their due. Just then, a deafening roar erupted from the water. Lisa staggered back, caught in its wake as the truth lurked just below the surface, whispering secrets she was unprepared to face. What horrors awaited her in the depths? Come play with us forever. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, she would confront the abyss. But tonight, she had to survive. She turned slowly, heart racing, determined to unlock the terrifying mystery of what truly lay beneath. But could she find Jake before it was too late? Lisa stumbled backward, her breath escaping in frantic gasps. The beach stretched before her, empty now but filled with dark essence, a stillness that tasted of salt and fear. The townspeople's figure, once merely watchful shadows, felt alive, each one a vessel of dread as they loomed, silent witnesses to her struggle and the abyssal promises it held. Where's Jake? She whispered, the name barely escaping her lips. The thought of that girl with the twisted smile clawed at her mind. Had her son truly been there, or had the abyss stolen him, dragging him into its depths like a fisherman with an unsuspecting catch? The stillness around her shifted. Waves lapped softly, but that quiet wasn't peaceful. It was a warning. Run! A voice pierced the veil of silence, maybe from the crowd, maybe from her own instincts. Without looking back, she turned and sprinted. The beach felt endless, each step pounding in rhythm with her terrified heartbeat. But the shadows moved, merging into shapes that beckoned, their whispers curling around her ears, echoing, taunting. You cannot escape. Lisa fought against the pull, racing toward the nearest house, a weathered structure that leaned precariously on the looming cliff. Each footfall seemed to awaken something hidden within the earth, a restless energy that thrummed beneath her very skin. She skidded to a halt at the door, fingers trembling as she pressed the wood. The door creaked open, revealing darkness that enveloped her like a shroud. Hello? Her voice bounced off the walls, swallowed by the oppressive air. Shadows swirled, flickering in the scant light of the moon sneaking through the grime-coated window. She stepped inside, careful, but the chill struck her like a slap. Something crunched beneath her foot. She looked down to find fragments of ceramic plates and bowls, shattered memories scattered across the floor. A photograph lay half buried in the debris, corners frayed and wet. She picked it up, heart plummeting. In the picture, the townsfolk smiled wide and bright, a snapshot of a festival long past. But behind the joyful faces loomed the tide, ominous and restless, as if it were a predatory beast.
"Mom!" Jake's voice echoed as if summoned through the photograph.
No, she struggled to breathe.
This wasn't happening.
The abyss wanted her to doubt. It wanted her to crumble. Courage coursed through her veins, she wasn't done fighting. Back outside, she saw the figures still at the shoreline, unmoving. They seemed to sway, caught in some silent dance of despair. Among them was the girl, the one who had lured her with promises of Jake.
"Jake is not here," Lisa whispered, rising fury fueling her resolve. "You took him. You think you can keep him from me?" With renewed determination, she strode out of the house, leaving the haunting image behind.
The wind roared, lifting her hair, a wild frenzy that pushed her forward. She had to find the truth deep within the abyss, and the only way to save Jake was by confronting the terrible nature of what awaited her.
"Go back!"
they hissed, but she pressed on. The water surged, clawing at the shoreline, each wave a reminder of the dangers that lay ahead.
Lisa marched closer, heart pounding, feeling the cold spray hit her face.
She had to dive in, had to face that which terrified her most. Yes, she had to face the abyss to save her son. What if she dove in and never resurfaced?
But was there a choice?
Suddenly, a hand shot from the waves, not Jake's, but another, twisted and glowing. The eerie light flickered like a dying star.
It beckoned, promising both salvation and demise. This was the moment.
Lisa took a deep breath, the taste of salt heavy in the air, the world closing around her like the depths of the unforgiving sea. Before she could think, she leaped into the chaos below.
What awaited her in the chilling embrace of the abyss?
Would she rescue Jake or fall victim to it herself?
The water swallowed Lisa whole, dragging her down into the depths.
Surrounded by an impossible darkness, she felt the cold seep into her bones, mingling with panic. The weight of the sea pressed against her, suffocating any lingering thoughts of escape. She fought against it, her limbs thrashing wildly, but the current had other plans. Moments stretched like hours as the abyss swallowed her. Just when her lungs screamed for air, a shimmering light appeared below. It flickered, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. A fleeting sense of hope ignited, urging her deeper. Closer she swam, and the light revealed twisted shapes, silhouettes of lost souls dancing in misery. Their mouths opened in silent screams, eyes wide with despair. One reached for her, fingers elongated and gnarled, tinged with ghostly luminescence.
"No!"
she gasped, twisting away, but the grip of another pulled her back in. "Join us!" A chorus of whispers wrapped around her, each word dripping with a sweet venom.
"You can't fight it, Lisa, you're meant to be here with us." She shook her head, but the piercing cold drew her back.
A chilling realization struck her, a deep-rooted fear.
Were they all like her?
Were they mothers seeking lost children, or victims who had dared to confront the abyss? Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the echoes.
It was Jake. "Mom!" His voice bubbled up from the darkness, haunting yet clear. "Jake!"
she screamed, a desperate cry swallowed by the water.
"Where are you?"
Fragments of memories surfaced in her mind, the laughter, the warmth of his embrace, the innocent delight in his eyes. All of it felt so far away now, snatched from her grasp by the darkness. The light pulsed, teasing her closer, guiding her through a horror show of swirling visions. Each tortured face she passed told a story of sorrow and regret, all claiming she could change her fate if only she surrendered.
"Let go," they pleaded.
"Join us." Lisa's heart raced, raw with the weight of loss.
She wouldn't give in.
She would fight, not only for herself but for every soul trapped in this nightmare.
"I refuse," she yelled, summoning every ounce of strength.
With her will powering her, she pushed against the current, ignoring the suffocating cold and the chorus of despair. The shadows around her writhed, angered by her defiance. The grasp on her limbs tightened, a desperate last attempt to pull her back, but she swam harder. A single thought rang clear: Jake's smile. She had to find him, had to face whatever darkness held him. Then, through the chaos, she saw a figure emerge, rising like a beacon. It was Jake, his face pale but alive. His eyes were wide with terror, yet they sparkled as they locked onto hers.
"Mom! Don't give in!"
he cried, a plea that sliced through the sea's clammy grip. Terrified and resolute, she surged towards him. The abyss roared in fury, torrent swirling with malevolence, but she did not back down. Through the maelstrom, she reached for him, grasping desperately. The moment their fingers touched, a surge of energy coursed through her. The light intensified, illuminating the dark water around them. For the first time, hope surged. But just as quickly, shadows loomed, smothering their connection with ancient dread. "Stay with us," Lisa, the grotesque faces whispered, pulling her mind into another tangled web of nightmares. With her heart hammering, Lisa locked eyes with Jake, the only thing anchoring her to reality. "We can fight it together," she shouted, even as the abyss roared in frustration. The world began to tremble, and darkness threatened to pull them apart. "Trust me," she yelled, willing him to believe. As they joined hands, Lisa felt a warmth amid the cold, a promise of defiance against despair. Would they break free from the abyss together, or would the darkness claim them both? With her breath faltering, she braced herself as the shadows continued to close in. Hold on tight, Jake. What awaited them in the abyss? The ultimate reckoning or a descent into irreversible darkness? Would they find a way to emerge, or had they both sealed their fates forever? The tumultuous waters surged around them as Lisa and Jake clung to one another, their lives suspended between hope and despair. The dark shadows writhed menacingly, hungry to reclaim them. The figures loomed closer, their haunting whispers twisting into a cacophony that echoed inside Lisa's head. "Give in," they sang, their voices seductive and slick like oil. "You 1T survived this, join us now," Lisa cried, defiance surging through her veins. "We 1T." Every ounce of her being screamed for them to break through the pressure surrounding them. As if sensing her ferocity, the tide swirled violently, attempting to toss them apart. The shadows clawed at her, dragging her back, but she 1T about to let Jake slip away. The grip of his hand felt warm amidst the ice-cold grip of the abyss. It was a tether, a lifeline, and Lisa poured everything she had into it, her love, her fear, her memories. Those fleeting fragments that danced on the edges of her thoughts were crystal clear: Jake's laughter, his first steps, the countless nights of reading bedtime stories. "Stay with me, Mom." Jake's voice cut through the fray, fierce and determined. "No matter what happens, Jake, I'll always be with you," she shouted, her voice rising above the clamor of the abyss. "We'll find a way." With a tightened grip, Lisa pulled Jake closer. The light flickered again, momentarily illuminating the darkness and revealing more tortured souls that writhed in agony, their eyes filled with both pleading and malice. Despair threatened to creep into her resolve, but she couldn't let it. She couldn't allow herself to fall into their fate. The darkness roared, a guttural sound that reverberated through the depths. Waves crashed around them, attempting to tear them apart, but Lisa pushed forward, channeling her energy into a desperate, pulsing light that radiated from their joined hands. Together, they glowed a beacon in this blackened sea. "Fight, Jake," she urged, her voice a frantic whisper. "We're stronger than this." And suddenly, the wicked tide hesitated, recoiling from the brilliance they radiated. The faces surrounding them twisted in fury, a shriek splitting the water, piercing right through Lisa's chest. It felt as if the shadows were merging, forming something vast and formless, something ancient and filled with wrath. "Do not resist. You cannot escape the abyss," the shadows shouted, their voices blending into one thunderous decree. But Lisa felt Jake squeeze her hand tighter. "We can do this. Just remember, Mom," he yelled, his spirit unwavering. His young voice ignited an unexpected strength inside her. In that moment, the dark sea swelled, crashing toward them with a thunderous roar. Helpless faces snarled, reaching out with fingers that looked carved from the depths of nightmares. Time seemed to distort as a singular thought solidified within her: there was no surrender. Not now. Harnessing every morsel of courage, Lisa focused on the warmth of Jake's hand, and together they gathered the light, making it swell and pulse around them. An ethereal glow enveloped them, exploding into thousands of sparks that scattered through the water like stars. Yet, in the chaos, something shifted beneath them. The darkness seemed to ripple and swirl violently, an unseen force threatening to drag them down into an unending void. As the abyss shrieked in rage, Lisa's sight blurred. The grim faces of the lost were overtaken by shadows as the darkness lunged at them.
"Mom!" Jake shouted, eyes wide with fear. "What's happening?"
Their bond flickered amidst the encroaching blackness, the pull of despair growing stronger. Lisa struggled to remain anchored, desperately trying to keep the light alive, but the abyss coiled tighter. She sensed a great change was coming, a restless shift, like a giant beast beneath the waves. "Jake!" she cried, fear gripping her heart.
"We need to move now."
But as she began to swim towards the weakening light, a deeper darkness surged before them, blocking their path with an inky void.
What had they awakened? Would they be swallowed by whatever lay ahead?
The swirling maw loomed menacingly, offering no answer, only an insatiable hunger.
"Mom!"
Jake's voice trembled, brimming with terror as the shadows danced closer. "I'm scared." As the shadows closed in like an eternal night, Lisa's courage crumbled, and she knew the worst was yet to come.
What had they truly unleashed within the abyss? Would they escape its relentless grip, or were they bound for a fate darker than their worst nightmares?
The water churned violently as Lisa struggled against the overpowering weight of darkness enveloping them. She felt the chilling tendrils of the abyss wrapping around her ankles, pulling, dragging her down. Panic surged within her, sharp and unbearable.
"Hold on, Jake!"
she cried out, but Jake's grip was slipping.
The pressure of the water felt heavier, each second dragging them further from the fading light.
The glow they had generated flickered, teetering on the brink of extinction.
"Mom!"
His voice shook, desperation coloring his words.
"I can't hold on." "No!"
Her heart raced.
She was not losing him. Not now.
She pivoted, searching the chaotic abyss for anything to anchor them, a sign of salvation. The faces of the lost floated before her, moments of laughter twisted into cries of torment.
"This way."
She dove deep into the dark waters, forcing herself towards a faint shimmer far ahead, its glow barely breaking the shadows. Each stroke felt like dragging her limbs through molasses, but she couldn't stop. Jake followed, his breath ragged, panic rising like bubbles in the depths.
"Mom, I can't see it."
"It's there. Just believe." Lisa strained to keep her voice steady, her eyes focusing on the fading light. With every ounce of will, she propelled herself forward, the cold wrapping around her chest like a vice. The shadows pulsed angrily, enraged by their defiance. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of tormenting sounds swirling around her. Join us given they danced through her mind, urging her to succumb. Lisa gritted her teeth against the temptation, channeling her love for Jake into every desperate movement. The shimmering light ahead flickered again, taunting her. "We're almost there," she urged, but the malevolence in the water intensified. She could feel the shadows tearing at her resolve, gnashing their teeth, growing frantic.
And then something broke through.
A burst of light, so vivid and brilliant that it stunned Lisa for a heartbeat. It illuminated the water around them, casting aside the darkness like shadows at dawn. It was a figure, emerging from the depths, a human shape, bathed in a warm glow.
"Follow me." The figure called, its voice echoing with an otherworldly resonance, pulling at the very core of Lisa's soul.
It wasn't just a beacon, it felt like home, a promise of safety.
"Mom, who is that?"
Jake trembled, clutching her arm, a mix of fear and curiosity swimming in his wide eyes.
I don't know,"
Lisa responded, torn between fear and the hope that there might be a way out.
"But it might help us."
Before she could think, Lisa propelled herself toward the figure, glancing at Jake to measure his resolve.
"We have to trust it."
As they surged closer, the shadows writhed, shrieking in wrath. The light pulsed with life, blinding in its brilliance, and as they reached it, the abyss roared, a cacophony of anger puncturing the water around them.
"Use your light. Fight them,"
the figure commanded, its voice sharp and urgent. Lisa felt the warmth envelop her, coursing through her veins. She held Jake close, urging him to channel their fear into energy.
"Together!"
they shouted, focusing their combined will on the light. It exploded around them, incandescent and unwavering, but then, with a bone-chilling howl, the darkness rushed at them as if trying to repel the light, a tsunami of rage threatening to swallow them whole.
"Not again."
"We have to," Lisa yelled, but her words were cut off. The figure shimmered, revealing fleeting glimpses of faces she recognized. People she lost, friends once cherished.
"Mom, what are they doing?"
Jake squeaked, wide-eyed. The shadow screamed again, a terrible crescendo that rattled her bones. It surged around them, forming a wall, a hurricane of despair that seemed impossible to breach.
"Fight!" the glowing figure urged, desperation coating its voice. Would they break through this final barrier before the abyss claimed them? Would the light be enough against the tide of terror bearing down? Lisa felt the weight of dread as they stood at the edge of lost hope.
As the shadows lunged, clawing with ethereal fingers, a gut-wrenching thought pierced her mind.
Who would they be once they fell into the abyss?
The darkness drew closer, and with it came realization. What if, after everything, they were not just fighting to escape but instead to illuminate a terrible truth buried within their souls? With a final heave of strength, would they find a way to escape, or would the shadows finally have their reckoning?
The brightness surged around them, vibrant and alive, as if it had its own heartbeat. But just as quickly, a sudden crack of darkness split the light.
Shadows twisted, snaking around their feet like agitated snakes, scraping against Lisa's skin with an icy caress that made her shudder. Jake was still clinging tightly to her, his small fingers digging into her arm as if she were a lifeline.
"Let us go!"
she shouted, panic rolling through her like waves crashing against a rock. The glowing figure was growing distant, but she could feel its pull, a promise of safety, or perhaps a trap set by the very darkness they fought. The shadows roared, voices echoing from the depths, each one carrying hints of sorrow and rage.
Leave or be lost."
They shrieked, the words a discordant blend of agony and yearning. Lisa's pulse raced, and she could feel the weight of their despair trying to anchor her in place. But there was no time to consider defeat.
"Keep swimming, Jake,"
she urged, darting forward, still pushing toward the spectral form. The churning water was becoming a wild whirlpool, dragging them further from the light. With every stroke, Lisa felt herself being pulled back, the shadows wanting nothing more than to claim them.
"Mom!"
Jake cried, terror slicing through his voice.
"Hold on!"
she yelled back, trying to instill confidence even as her heart thudded.
She kicked harder, muscles burning, breaths coming in short gasps.
Suddenly, the light flickered violently, revealing a sharp, dark-visaged shadows morphing into monstrous outlines, eyes glinting with malice, and a hungry grin that promised suffering.
"Join us!"
they howled, their faces a grotesque mirror of lost souls, the very people Lisa had mourned. Friends, loved ones all twisted in horrific delight, beckoning her into the depths. A rise of bile threatened to choke her as she glimpsed the faces she had fought so hard to forget.
"No! We aren't joining you!"
she screamed, anger slicing through her fear. The voice of courage crackled inside her like dry wood igniting in a fire.
With renewed determination, Lisa reshaped her focus.
"Jake, where is the light?" she asked, as she felt a spark of warmth way down in her core, a flicker that hadn't yet been extinguished.
"I can feel it," Jake said, his voice trembling but louder now, fighting through the chaos. "It's there. We just have to call it. Then let us do it. We are light."
Lisa shouted, plunging deeper into the swirling pool, Jake following her lead. Together they pulled from the depths of their spirits. A surge of brilliant light erupted, cascading outward like a starburst. It broke the shadows, fracturing their hold, exposing their true forms. Lisa felt a wild mix of joy and fear. The darkness twisted but couldn't withstand the blinding force they unleashed.
Yet the moment was fleeting.
A claw of dark tendrils shot forth, coiling around her wrist, squeezing tighter, refusing to let go.
"You think you can escape?"
it hissed, its voice dripping with anger, the whispers a cacophony of desperation and a twisted sense of entitlement. Lisa's breath hitched.
"We want to be part of you. We are free!"
she cried, pulling at the glowing core, channeling all her strength and love for Jake. The light pulsed violently, sending echoes throughout the abyss, but then with a sudden, chilling realization Lisa's heart sank.
What if they were part of the darkness?
What if the truth echoed deeper than the abyss itself? As the shadows recoiled, laughter rang out, a cruel symphony that cut through the warmth, and Lisa and Jake were swept back into an expansive night. The light dimmed, leaving only the question: had they illuminated something far darker than they could comprehend? The deeper truth waited ahead, the echoes of their own souls preparing to be unveiled. What would they face next on their fight for survival? What shadows had yet to unfold? The pull of the shadows stayed strong, wrapping around Lisa like a vice. It twisted painfully, zapping energy with every agonizing heartbeat. They were in an endless void, spiraling deeper into darkness. Nausea clawed at her throat as she gasped for air that wouldn't come. She turned to Jake, his face a mask of fear and confusion. "Jake, focus. We have to break through." The words tumbled from her lips, a desperate plea. "But..." "Mom," his voice trembled, the shadows whispering promises of comfort that coiled tightly around his small mind. What if they're right? The innocent question struck her like a dagger. "No. Don't listen," she pleaded, her heart racing. "We're stronger than this." The darkness twisted, forming shadows of their past, flashes of laughter erased by sorrow. A younger Lisa sat in a park, her mother beside her. The shadows morphed, flickering like old film, saturating Lisa's vision in a torrent of grief. She felt the weight of memories pressing down. But the laughter was gone, replaced by the echoes of ghostly calls, begging for them to stay. A flicker ignited within her, a wildfire of defiance. "You're not real. You're just echoes of what I lost." The words roared from her chest, reverberating in the void, and then came the screams, raw and guttural, reverberating in the darkness. "You cannot escape what you are." Shadows converged on them, a wall of sorrow and anger writhing, aiming to extinguish their light. Lisa saw Jake's eyes widen, fear turning to ice as he struggled against it, fighting to break free. "We are light." Lisa screamed again, summoning the flicker within. "Jake, hold on to me." It was a chant now, a mantra against the consuming void. With every ounce of her will, she pulled Jake closer, infusing him with the strength she felt bubbling within. Light radiated from them like a beacon, cutting through the dread-filled depths. It was sharp and bright, a blade against the suffocating shadows. For a heartbeat, the darkness shrank back, recoiling from the illumination. The cries shifted from howls of temptation to wails of fury, the shadows flaring, almost blinding as they twisted in earnest despair. "No!" the dark voices screeched. "You can leave." The shadows lashed out, tendrils curling around Lisa's legs, but she pressed forward, refusing to yield. Each pulse of their combined light sent shocks through the water, forcing the shadows to writhe and twist like insectal creatures caught in a flame. Lisa felt the defiance coursing through her, a surge against the tide of despair. Jake's small form pressed against her side, his energy mingling with hers. "Together!" he shouted, eyes gleaming, filled with the fierce light of hope. Suddenly, a crack formed in the shadows above them, a fissure spilling bright luminescence, a doorway to freedom. But that escape came with a price. The shadows surged toward the crack, fingers of darkness reaching, desperate to pull them back. "Mom! We have to run!" Jake cried, fear spilling over as the shadows lunged, angry and relentless. "Now!" she shouted, breaking into a desperate swim toward the light. Each stroke fought against the tightening darkness, instincts screaming in the chaos. But just as they neared the crack, the shadows erupted in a fury, encasing Jake in a heavy grip. "You belong with us. You cannot leave." The voices rose in smothering cacophony, the realization hitting, they weren't just being pulled back. The darkness hungered for Jake's innocence, for the vitality that remained in them. Lisa's heart plummeted, thoughts racing. "Jake, you have to fight." She reached for her son, but the tendrils coiled tighter, choking his cries. With a primal roar, she surged forward, her body colliding with the mass of shadows. "You will not take him!" she screamed. But in that moment, it all shifted. The crack of light shimmered dangerously, an ephemeral promise of escape, and then it flickered, wavering like a candle in a storm. What awaited them on the other side? Could they truly break free, or was the darkness about to swallow them whole? The answer loomed, heavy as the oppressive shadows, teasing at the edges of their resolve. Lisa's heart pounded against her ribs as she fought through the tangled darkness, desperation igniting a fire within. The figures loomed closer, shadows twisted into the forms of those she once cherished, all clawing at her, whispering promises of pain and return. But she was resolute. They would not take Jake. The crack of blinding light pulsed before them, beckoning, shimmering with the hope of escape and a weighty promise of safety. "Jake!" she called, her voice echoing through the abyss, urging him to remember who he was. "You need to focus. Remember us. Remember love." His eyes, wide and filled with fear, met hers, flickering with doubt that clashed against a fierce glimmer of spirit. "Mom, I'm scared." The shadows lashed out, snapping at her, but Lisa pushed through, determination clawing at her heart. She could feel the warmth of Jake's spirit, and with it, a surge of energy echoed in her core. They had faced this darkness together. They could face it again. "Hold on," she urged, fighting against the pull of despair. "We can do this together. We are light." More tendrils shot from the void, wrapping around her waist, pulling at her resilience. But with every ounce of love, she threw her will against the shadows. The light around them shimmered brighter, like a beacon in the hollow depths, rebuffing the darkness and revealing glimpses of hope. "Mom!" Jake's voice trembled but held a hint of courage. "We have to swim. It's right there." The crack in the shadows widened, a brilliant slit that light poured through, but the dark figures grew more desperate, more frantic. "You cannot leave." Their voices howled, melding into a tempest of despair, urging them to give in. "Push." Lisa gritted her teeth, forcing herself forward, the darkness scratching at her spirit. "We're almost there." The brightness surged as they swam toward the crack, hearts racing, a single heartbeat amidst the chaos, an unwavering pulse of hope. "Don't look back, just keep going," she yelled, and he followed, their hands clasped tight against the raging tide, but then an icy grip snagged Jake, tugging him back. "No!" Lisa screamed, the world narrowing in that horrifying moment of realization. "Jake!" She felt like she was being torn in two, the cold darkness threatening to consume him, to rip him from her life forever. "Mom!" Jake's small hand slipped from hers like sand through fingers, eyes wide in terror. The shadows shrieked, twisting around him, pulling him into their suffocating mass. "Not my son!" Lisa roared, instinct and fury welling up as she lunged toward the tendrils snaking around Jake. "You will not take him." And with that surge of power coursing through her, she shattered that suffocating grip, unleashing a world of light that exploded like fireworks against the shadows, illuminating all that had been lost. The tendrils shrieked, retreating like frightened animals. "Hold on, Jake! Keep your eyes on me!" she shouted, her heart desperate and beating as she reached for him. "We're getting out of here." The crack widened, a gateway loomed just ahead, brighter than the sun, but the shadows clawed back, anger igniting their voices into a chilling symphony of anguish. "You will not escape. You belong to us." But together, they swam. The light enveloping them raged against the encroaching shadows, a powerful force as they surged toward freedom. The beings in darkness writhed and howled but could not penetrate the brilliance they radiated. "Now, Jake! Now!" Lisa shouted, and with one final push, they broke through the crack, bursting into the icy night air above the waves. The cool wind welcomed them, wrapping them like a warm hug. Gasping, licking salt from their lips, they emerged alive on the shore. Jake clung to her, ragged and breathless. The darkness twitched behind them, furious but stuck in its prison. "Mom, we did it!" he exclaimed, overwhelmed. "Yes, we did, sweetheart. We did it." Lisa forced herself to breathe, heart still racing, relief flooding her chest as she held him tight. But the darkness was still alive, murmuring in the depths. Lisa looked back at the ocean, shadows still thrumming beneath the surface, and swallowed hard. That confrontation, that battle, was just the beginning. The past wouldn't easily release its grip. "We have to warn them," she murmured, remembering the townsfolk, the faces that had shifted when they had stepped closer to the shore. The abyss had claimed far more than they knew, and it was time to lift the veil of silence over Haven Cove. "Tomorrow," she whispered to Jake, pulling him close, "we confront the truth together. We stand strong against the abyss." The waves crashed behind them as dawn broke over the horizon, hues of orange lifting the night like a promise, a new beginning, a glimmer of hope. Together, they would stand against the darkness, for they had each other, and that was a connection no abyss could sever. As the sun rose higher, illuminating the town, Lisa resolved to weave the history of their battle into the tapestry of their life. No more whispers of secrets, no more never-ending ties to the past. Together, they would break the chains and bring light to the truth hidden in the plumes of darkness. They were survivors. They would find a way, and that was just the beginning. Now's your chance. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on exclusive stories like this one. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support our community. Don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what happens next. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.